We are going to suffer for the decisions that we make today. We are already suffering from the decisions of our forefathers, of the people that came before us. The people that came before us sold us out. During the Clinton administration, they sold off our jobs, they sold off our factories. And he wasn't the only one, right? They gave everything over to foreign investment. They manufactured the housing crisis. Bush 2 was one of the worst presidents in my entire lifetime. I still do not believe, as far as all of these terrorist attacks, they went over into Iraq and they didn't even find a can of spam over there. They didn't find a can of spam over there. We have such short memories, and we suffered tremendously when the rent moratorium was up. You know how many evictions? Because I pay attention to it. And I got buddies that live in other cities because we're all investors. And so we trade secrets, or we leapfrog off of each other. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. And we have conversations. Hey, what's going on in your city? What kind of legislation do they have? And is it difficult to be able to evict people? Oh, y'all suffering in California. You need to hurry up and sell that property. Oh man, they got a mansion tax over there if it's above a certain threshold, so on and so on. So we're all having conversations. Oh, insurance companies is leaving Florida, they leaving California over there too. It's gonna go crazy. This and that, and this and that. And so we're having conversations on what makes the most sense in all of that. And from a financial economic standpoint, what I've seen is people are suffering ridiculous amount of suffering that is happening across the board. But they haven't suffered enough. And do you know why I know that they haven't suffered enough? The reason that I know that they haven't suffered enough is because they're still having the same habits, the same voting, the same mindset in approaching it. They still think that they victims. They won't take their lives into their own hands, and they waiting for the federal government to give them something. And they think that Kamala Harris is going to be any different than what their experience was over the last 3.5 years. And that baffles me. That truly baffles me, because she is a continuation of what you experienced over the last 3.5 years versus what you experienced in 2016 through 2020. So if we have two different sample sizes, why do we care about talking points instead of substantiating whether or not the policy aligned with what we've just experienced? I know what I experienced from 2016 to 2020 because after it, I retired in 2019. The bag was crazy. It was up. I don't want the government participating in what it is that I got going on inside of my household. So why would I want federal legislation to play a role in something that I can control? I can control whether or not I have a child out of wedlock. I don't have to participate in that process. Not only do I have hundreds of forms of different contraception, I can also be celibate, or I can have some discipline. And if you just so happen to be one of the ones that want to be promiscuous and let it all hang out, guess what? Guess what you can do? You can do that. And you can vote in your state to determine whether or not you want to have these laws that allow for you to want to go inside of it and remove whatever it is that you don't want inside of you again. As crazy as that sounds. But we have Planned Parenthood outside of the Democratic National Convention for free, doing what you want to do, but then at the same time, y'all want to say that y'all believers. How? How? Y'all have migrants overrunning your cities. They're taking over apartment buildings in Denver. They running amok and they knocking people in their heads, and they literally are forming gangs in New York, and New York won't even prosecute them. So now it's basically rendered the police officers useless because they catching and releasing. Oakland is practically on the verge of filing for bankruptcy, so much so that the police officers and the police union is saying that they want to completely remove their legislation altogether. Brandon Johnson came in Chicago, and he is a worse version of Lori Lightfoot, who y'all voted in based off of identity politics, gender politics, all of that. And now she's over there trying to expose Tiffany Henyard in Dayton, Illinois. And Chicago don't even own its own streets, and they're operating at a deficit. And so it's a doom loop, and the Magnificent Mile is approaching a 50% vacancy rate in the biggest tourist destination in the Midwest. The highest taxes in the world, as far as in this country, it seemed like in the world, but in this country is in New York and Los Angeles, traditionally blue states. Chicago was a close third behind. There's people that are getting their property taxes raised by up to 86%. So it's effectively, even if you didn't have a mortgage, which most of them do, you still a renter. And you want more federal oversight? They can't even manage the budgets that they have. You want more leaders that are not qualified, that are school teachers that don't understand business? You want more people that was a part of the establishment that has never worked in a private sector in their life but has always been paid by taxpayers that can then tell you what you're supposed to do? You want more fake promises of what they're going to do for you, but all it's going to do is cause more inflation? You can't go to the store now and then be able to fill up your refrigerator for $300? Repossessions are crazy. Credit card debt higher than it's ever been. Evictions out of control. Foreclosures rising more than it was when we first started seeing the onset of what was happening in the housing crisis, because most people can't. And the people that can, they won't, because their interest rates are too low versus what it is that they would have to go into if they was to go and buy a new home. So what you've had is a standstill in the real economy of what's happening on the streets. Because as long as you don't have the circulation of the American dollar, oh, you selling your home, you buying a new one, cash is cheap. Inflation is over the last 3.5 years has been above 20%, all of this stuff. What you have is something that is turning into a monster. It is going to be disastrous. Disastrous. People are getting laid off at an enormous clip. Stellantis, which was Chrysler Dodge, is literally about to be sold over to BYD and the Chinese. They're about to sell Chrysler and Dodge and possibly Ram over to the Chinese and keep Jeep. General Motors just laid off another 1,000 employees. Cisco is downsizing. Microsoft and Google ain't hiring. Bigger gig workers everywhere. And now you got to compete with migrants in order to get a gig job, because every time that I order something, Jesus come over there and say, oh, thank you. What do you think is going to happen? You think it's going to get better? Let me ask you a question. Let's say that you're still standing on this black thing because you ain't never experienced racism in your life and you ain't never picked a piece of cotton in your life. You barely even want to go to work today. You got a bad attitude, your breath stink, and you're living in your mama's basement. Cool. So let's say, for example, just for the sake of conversation, right? You vote her in. All right. What do you think is going to happen over the next 4 years? Specifically, give me something. I'm paying attention to the chat. What is the expectation? Because I know that the argument a lot of y'all make that can't substantiate her policy say, well, I don't want to vote for him. Okay, cool. Vote for you. What are you expecting if you vote her in office? What do you get in return as a result of it? Go. Go now. What are you expecting? What are you going to get? How does that play out for you? And how is it any different than what you got over the last 3.5 years? And how have you benefited from that? I can tell you what I expect. Want me to tell you what I expect? And it's funny again, because I was saying this. I said, a lot of times people don't even understand that they voting for their own demise. See, I have the ability. I'm America first. I love this country. I want to leave this earth in a better space had I not been here. But here's the key, though. I am in a space in my life because you see me, right? Yesterday I was in the studio doing the show. Today I am here in Miami and I flew down here and I'm going to be flying back with new things. I'm going to get my new Sky Dweller today. I have the ability to buy and do and go anywhere I want in the world for the rest of my life, and my family is going to be taken care of. I'm good. I can pick up and leave. You stuck. You're stuck. You have no opportunities, no other options. You are stuck in a space that you are in right here, right now. You should have a bigger, bigger vested interest in what is going on in this country than I even have. You should have a greater interest in what's going to benefit you than even me. Because at any point, I could just go and change location, change clothes. I could do anything I want to do when I want to do it. Regardless of whatever is to come. When I find out what the results are, which I largely think that Trump is going to win in a landslide, when I find out what the results are going to be in November, I can immediately make the adjustments. I could do anything I want. I'm mobile as hell. The same way that I just booked the flight same day yesterday in order to get out here is the same way that I can do anything I want to do. I can make a hit with the touch of a button. And my life don't change. It probably gets better. I probably can profit off of your pain and suffering because when you start to lose your house, guess who's going to be there in order to pick it up and buy it? I honestly believe, and I'm just enjoying the ride and bringing along with me who they can. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. I honestly believe in my heart that there is going to be more suffering, and I don't even think that y'all deserve Trump. I don't think that y'all deserve. If y'all got in there and he fixed what they did over the last 3.5 years or last 4 years by the time that he get in there, you still wouldn't appreciate his presidency. Not until you suffer. You don't even know what you have until it's gone. And that's true even when it comes to who it is that's in office and your politicians. We didn't even know what the impact was going to be when we got Biden in office. We didn't even know that he was just completely with almost looking like he got an onset of dementia. But you're going to find out. You're going to learn today. And I'm going to be laughing all the way to the bank as we do it.